Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. On this week's episode, we are going to be making tempura fried okra with ranch ice cream. Yes, I said ranch ice cream. She said she did this on to be cheeky in her restaurant, but people liked it, and so it's in the book. I got a really beautiful delivery of okra, and we fry it whole with a tempura batter. But first we have to make that ranch ice cream. And to do that, we have to sort of turn back. Oh, by the way, this is in Deep Run Roots, Vivian Howard's cookbook. And we have to turn back to the cucumber section because the ranch that we're using is from the Wedge You Like a Salad with That Ranch. And she calls it cucumber ranch because usually it has a bunch of cucumbers in it. But this is that recipe minus the cucumbers. Now the first thing is, it says, this recipe, the cucumber ranch recipe minus the cucumbers. I was a little concerned because the cucumbers, you add salt to the cucumbers and there's no other salt in the recipe. So I'm leaving the salt in, and I think that's probably what I should do at this point. Otherwise there's no salt in the recipe. But you know, if I misunderstood that, that's on me. I don't think so, but we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. But so first we're gonna start adding in this bowl I have sour cream, but it's mostly my countertop creme fraiche that I just needed to use up. It was in my refrigerator. I needed to use it up, so I'm using it. It's a little bit fancy. The rest of it's store-bought sour cream. She does say full fat sour cream, so do that. So I'm adding the salt, and then to the sour cream / creme fraiche. And then I'm going to add the other dry ingredient here, the other dry ingredients, which are garlic powder and onion powder, equal amounts here. And then go ahead and add the wet ingredients, the really wet ingredients. I have some lemon juice. And then I need some Worcestershire sauce. So I'm just going to measure that out here because I wasn't going to use a container for that little amount, and it's not hard to do. So I've got some Worcestershire sauce. I probably should have taken my spoon out because we're going to use the whisk. Anyway, I have some mayonnaise. This is a little bit of my basic cider mayo, also from the Pools Diner cookbook. Again, just because I happen to have it in my refrigerator and I needed to use it up. But the rest of it is our family favorite, Duke's, which we always keep on hand. Mayo is really easy to make, but it's much easier to buy it. And we have some buttermilk ranch. This is just a little bit, and again, she says full fat buttermilk, I'm pretty sure. No, she just says buttermilk. So I guess whatever you have, I usually buy the full fat. And then we have some herbs. This is flat leaf parsley, and these are roughly equal amounts of the herbs. We have some flat leaf parsley and some minced chives. So can mince things. I think I've done that on this show before, and it's just kind of tedious, so I didn't show it to you. And then so we're supposed to whisk this. I'm gonna get as much off of my spoon as I can, and before I whisk it, because I got some of the ingredients on there, but I can mix that in later. All right, so we're just gonna whisk this together. All right, that looks pretty good. It looks like ranch dressing. So good. And there is no pepper. I just want to make sure. Yeah, there's no pepper in this recipe. So just salt and then the other things that I mentioned. So we are going to get our ice cream maker set up, and we're going to churn this according to the ice cream maker instructions. Now, the other recipe says that you only need about a half a cup of this for the recipe, for the ice cream, for the okra, but most most ice cream makers won't actually churn a small amount. The good thing, however, is you can churn this and freeze it, and then if you want to just have some ranch, let it thaw, let it melt, and it should be good. We'll see how that goes, but she says it should be fine, and it seems like it should be. We'll see. But we'll be back with our ice cream machine, and we're gonna churn it. Okay, so my ranch ice cream is pretty much done. It stopped moving, so it stopped really churning, and so I'm going to call that done. It's pretty soft as expected when it comes out of the machine, but she says that she likes to serve this pretty soft. The picture in the book is not very soft, but you know, sometimes that's not how it goes when they do the pictures. We've talked about that before. So I'm just gonna take this out of the machine and we're gonna put it in the freezer, and you can keep it, you know, for a while because it's frozen ice cream. Or like I said, you can just melt it if you wanna have regular ranch dressing. You know, whenever you would like to, if you would like to use it, or she says use it with other fried vegetables similarly, or make more okra, but it will keep for a while. I don't know if she says exactly how long, but you know, ice cream, frozen. As long as it doesn't get freezer burn, you're probably good. So I'm gonna try and get as much out of here as I can, and we'll be back to show you how to fry the okra. So our ranch is done, it's in the freezer, and I'm ready to fry my okra. I'm gonna take the ranch out of the freezer as soon as this is done, and I'll still have a little bit more time before. Anyway, take it out of the freezer at least a few minutes before you wanna use it so it's not super hard. That's the tip. But we're gonna make the tempura batter. And for that, I wanna talk about one of the ingredients first. This is Wondra flour. She says you can also use rice flour. Wondra flour is a wheat flour. It's an enriched white wheat-based flour, but it is a very fine particles. So it's sold generally in like a canister, kind of like, you know, a cardboard canister of salt, sort of, kind of like that. So that's what this is. All right, so our first step with this is to have 1 egg yolk. So I've got my egg. I'm gonna catch the white in this bowl. And then put the yolk in my big bowl. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna whisk this up by itself first, just to get it a little, so I don't whisk up the soda, the club soda quite as much. But so now we're gonna add some club soda, and that will, those bubbles will help the batter be light, sort of light and airy. Make sure I don't get too much in there. No, we're good. All right, so I'm gonna put that in there. And we're supposed to whisk this up together before we do anything else. All right, and now we just add the other ingredients. So we've got some salt and some sugar, equal amounts. We have some cornmeal and our Wondra flour. And we're just gonna whisk these all in, and then we will be ready to fry. Now she says it's going to look really thin and like it's not gonna coat or stay on the okra, but please test fry one first. So that's what we're gonna do, and we will meet you at the stove. So we finally got our oil up to temperature. Should have heated it up earlier, but whatever. And we're gonna test fry one. I've got sort of one of my smaller ones, and I'm going to put the batter on it, and it is kind of thin, but not too horrible. And we're gonna drop it in and see. I also have a sheet pan with a drying rack set on top of it, ready for them to be put onto, and my oven is set to 200 degrees to keep them nice and warm while we fry all of the batches. She says 2 batches. We'll see how many it takes in hours. This is peanut oil. She says to use peanut oil or canola oil. Peanut oil is the one I could find. Canola oil tends to go rancid pretty quickly in my experience. So I decided to buy peanut oil, and I had to buy like a gallon of it to get enough for this recipe. I didn't measure it exactly, but you know, I used about half of my gallon. So we're looking at more of a deep fry than a shallow pan fry on this. So she says each batch should take about 4 minutes. These are, I mean, it's supposed to be a nice light batter. I'm supposed to only turn it over once, but you know, I'm playing with it because it's the first one. It's supposed to be a nice light batter, and the okra should be whole, as you saw. I did cut off the woody ends just because I didn't want to eat those. You know, do what you want. Hers, some of them have them, some of them don't. Just personal preference, I'm sure. So I think this is actually going to be pretty good. And when they are done, before we slide the first batch into the oven, we should sprinkle them with salt. So the salt in this recipe is sort of half in the batter and then half goes on after they're done frying. And I think that we are pretty good here with this one. And I think, she said seeing the oil bubble in between is fine, but you don't want whole sheets to fall off. But if it's all falling off and not staying on, then you should add another tablespoon of cornmeal. So I'm gonna fry a couple batches of this, and then I will salt them in between and put it in the oven at 200 degrees to stay warm. And then we'll be ready to eat. And I'll dish up our ice cream and our okra, and we'll let you know what we think. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make tempura fried okra with ranch ice cream out of Vivian Howard's Deep Run Roots cookbook. Now, this was an interesting recipe because of the ranch ice cream. We let it sit out for a little bit before we scooped it, which was, I think, very important because we've had it a few times since then, since we first made it, because we still have quite a bit in the freezer. And it's very hard if you don't let it sit out. But if you let it sit out, it kind of scoops up into a very creamy, airy ranch dressing that's colder than usual. I don't know. The kids were not super thrilled with ranch ice cream. They will eat it. They let it melt and dip some stuff in it, and it's fine. It is very heavy on the garlic flavor. Now, it might be because the garlic powder that I use, I usually use Penzeys. That's what I had. And so maybe that's sort of extra garlicky. I don't know, but it is very heavy on the garlic flavor. And so the okra was fried whole, and the tempura batter, everything worked out perfectly. It was really not so bad. It's actually, I think it's easier to fry them whole than to fry them than to fry the little pieces in like a pan fry, which is sort of the standard Southern way that home cooks make okra, is cut into, you know, discs, and then with a light cornmeal or flour and cornmeal mixture, and then pan fried. And so I feel like this was actually a little bit easier. It required more oil, but there are fewer pieces to worry about, so it all ended up a little bit more consistent. The tempura batter it worked out better than I expected. I know that tempura can be a little fiddly, and I did get the Wondra flour that she suggested on here, and it worked out perfectly, so that was good. It all did what it was supposed to do. Wasn't that hard. The hardest part was the ranch ice cream, actually. So you can obviously fry the okra this way and not make the ranch ice cream and just dip it in whatever you want. And so that's great. I do not keep Wondra flour or rice flour on hand right now. I'll have some. So whether I'll make it again this way or not, I'm not sure. I might make it again while I have that, but it's probably not something that I'm going to keep on hand. And I also don't generally have club soda. The club soda that is sort of helps the tempura batter be lighter. I don't usually have that on hand. So it's probably not going to be my go-to recipe, but it's certainly worth it. And it's delicious. It worked out great, not that hard. And so if you want to do a little fancy up okra, this is a great way to do it. And of course my kids like fried okra, and that was not a problem. So ranch ice cream, not huge fans, but the okra was perfectly acceptable. So if you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and come back and watch me make something else.